What's going on, y'all? My name is Deron Shields. Thank y'all for tuning in to another movie review. This time around, I'm going to be reviewing They Will Kill You, starring Zazie Beetz, directed by Kirill Sokolov. They Will Kill You unleashes a blood-soaked, high-octane horror action comedy in which a young woman must survive a night at the Virgil, a demonic cult's mysterious and twisted death trap of a lair, before becoming their next offering in a uniquely brazen, big-screen battle of epic kills and wickedly dark humor. This movie has been on my radar for a long time, at least about 6 months or so, when I first was seeing it advertised or whatever. It was interesting to think about Zazie Beetz being in this type of a, or at least as physical of a role as I perceived it to be. I didn't really watch the trailer like that. I saw clips, and then I kind of could tell I wanted to see it, so I cut it off. That's how I do trailers. So with watching the little bit of the trailer that I watched, I'm like, this should be interesting. I think she's a pretty good actress. She's done some good stuff, like some stuff I like, at least with Atlanta being one of my favorite shows and her being a big part of that. But seeing her in this role, even though she did lead in Domino, seeing her in this role be in a more gritty, R-rated type of thing, I was interested to see what that was going to be like. So yeah, I pretty much went into this blind. I saw like maybe a couple clips of the trailer. I did get a couple small things spoiled for me, but other than that, I was completely like not expecting some things because I didn't watch the trailer really at all. It's a decently followable story. Her sister gets separated. She have an abusive father. She runs off when the police come, and kind of abandons her sister in the very beginning. And then that kind of creates an arc for her, kind of making up for that abandonment that she put her sister through. And also, just persevering enough to find her and fighting through all these people that have made a deal with the devil for mortality in exchange for, human sacrifices. So going into it, I had no idea that there was going to be a comedic element to this movie at all. But it is very like, once it goes there, and I feel like there's a distinct moment when it does go to like funny, like kind of coming off as a joke. Once it goes there, it's like, okay, that's where we are. That's where we're, this is the approach that we're having. And I had to like adjust at first, but after a while, after just a few minutes, I think I was kind of used to it. I just didn't know what to expect. So that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, it's very much a like horror comedy. Somewhat like how Sin Help was kind of advertised as very serious. But then if you watch that movie, there's a lot of jokes like throughout the whole thing, and not so much horror. This one is a little bit more horror at least in the gore aspect. But it's not like a slasher horror type of thing. It's an over the top concept and an over the top like depiction of certain things, especially fighting and violence or whatever. People get hands cut off and feet cut off, and then spoiler alert. And then, regenerate heads and everything, arms, everything growing back and stuff. So this is very over the top. It's not meant to be super grounded and realistic necessarily. So knowing that, I think I was able to enjoy this movie a lot, actually. As far as the acting, I think Zazie Beetz, at first I was kind of skeptical of her like ability to be kind of like tough and almost like intimidating. She grew on me, as the movie went on. Like when she would yell, it's like it don't all the way curl over for me sometimes. But I do think like overall she did a good job as far as playing the character. I think it was believable enough. I think by the end I wasn't thinking about her performance in that kind of a way. The actress that played the child version of the little sister, I felt like those lines were really like she seemed like this might have been her first movie or whatever. It came off just really like flat and just like she was reading or whatever. But other than that, I feel like everybody did a good job as far as acting goes. Like I said, it does weigh pretty heavily in the comedic zone or whatever with this movie. So a lot of times with acting, I don't go super like critical on that. But even outside of being critical, I think the acting was pretty good in it overall. I think the older version of the little sister, I think was a lot better, and I think Zazie was good as well. As far as leading, and then even some of the supporting characters did a good job. So as far as the pacing, I do think this movie, it starts off kind of fast. Like it starts with an altercation between the abusive father, her sister, and her, being Maria and Asia. And from there, we kind of get action, I feel like, from the rest of the movie. There's not many really like slow points to me, and it's only like an hour and a half movie. The cinematography of this movie is actually pretty good. I actually enjoyed it. I think that they did a lot of cool stuff visually. There's a point where like Zazie is in the middle of the long like hotel hallway, and the light starts shutting off in the distance, coming closer. And it had a cool kind of intimidating, approaching kind of a effect visually. My favorite shot is like this big one long like slow mo shot where she's jumping forward and then cuts through a table midair because somebody, I think she throws the table or the person throws the table at her, but it's in the air between her and the enemy, and she cuts through the table and then ends up cutting through them or whatever. Super over the top, as is most of the movie as far as the violence and the fighting goes, but like that's the style. It kind of reminds me of something like a mix between like blaxploitation, like a kung fu movie, and like a Western sometimes, the way that they do it. They do a lot of like whip pans and then zooming in on stuff. That's more like almost like 70s style as far as camera work. I feel like this could be a little bit of an homage to like a Kill Bill type of thing. Like I said, it has a little bit of kung fu sword master type of thing going for it. Even in the way that like some of the characters fly through the air, you can kind of like see with the over the topness of it, you can kind of see like them being kind of floated on like harnesses or whatever, or somebody gets shot and they fly back into the bathroom. So that seems very Tarantino-esque. I think something like that happened in Django.
I said, tell Miss Laura goodbye.
Bye, Miss Laura.
But even the sequence where they're in like the crawl tunnels, they did some cool stuff with the camera with that. They did some like body cam, like facing the subject type of shots or whatever. So they did some cool stuff. I just like when movies actually try to shoot something in a way that's a little unorthodox, and especially if it's like actually helping tell the story or like depict something in like a even better way. Other than that big dramatic shot of her flying through the air, it's a couple really like kind of long, if not one shot, maybe like just like very minimally cut and edited fight scenes where there's a lot of fight choreography. And I actually think Zazie Beetz did a lot of good performing when it came to that. Like, I think she did have a stunt double, but like the times where you could tell it was her, I feel like she did a good job of like being really in the action, and it felt like intense. It didn't feel like, like soft and like nerfed action and nerfed violence per se. Then it did a good job of making it seem like kind of like it like impactful, like no pun intended, but punchy. In the end, Maria goes to write her name on the pig's head to give herself more immortality, and prepares to kill her sister. But at the last second, she decides to write her sister's name, giving her sister immortality, and sacrificing herself. From there, what we don't see right away is that Asia then writes her sister's name, like changes it to say her sister's name. And I think that's what brought her back. So she sacrificed herself, but then she was able to bring her back. Asia was able to bring her back through the name on the pig's head, or at least the skin that she cut off. From there, we get like this big battle where like the maitre d' of the hotel puts on the pig head and kind of becomes the devil and fights. Asia wins, bleaches the head and gets rid of all the names, and then sets the pig's head on fire. And then they drive off as the building explodes and burns down or whatever. So I think the ending was pretty good. As far as rewatchability, I think I actually would go back to watch this. I don't know if I will go back in the theater. We'll see. It just came out this past weekend, but I would rewatch it for sure on streaming, just to see it again and kind of like maybe catch some stuff I didn't see the first time. But it was an enjoyable movie. It was only an hour and a half, and like I said, it was pretty action packed. So I think that like it kind of flies by for the most part. It doesn't really drag, or not that I remember it, as I remember it. But yeah, so I would definitely rewatch this one. So for my score of They Will Kill You starring Zazie Beetz, I am going to give They Will Kill You, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I almost wanted to go 8, but I think that's fair. I think 7.5 is fair. It's not getting the best like critic reviews right now, but I think it's like 80% on Rotten Tomatoes in the audience category. So I think people that are some regular people that are going to watch it like it. But let me know what y'all think. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to see more of my content, and go back and watch some of my previous content, movie reviews, and otherwise. But other than that, thank you guys for watching another movie review. My name is Deron Shields. I'm out.